I just wanted to make a brief piece comparing the real Americans, the Native Americans, to the real Jewish people, and how similar they are, and how if history would have played out a little differently, I think this would have been an amazing continent, an amazing experience to see Jews living side by side by Native Americans. Of course, the Puritans came and all but committed genocide. And this is where we are now, that there's basically no Native Americans. And the same thing happened to the Jewish people throughout their histories, that wherever they went, they were killed mercilessly. And now there's about 14 million, whereas if you want to compare that, in the year 70, a statistic I heard from Eric Shlomo Krupka of Livingston, there was 5 million Chinese men on the planet and 5 million Jews. Fast forward to 70 of the Gregorian calendar. Fast forward now to 2009 of that same calendar. We're looking at 1.3, I think, billion Chinese people and 14 million Jews. So again, things could have worked out differently, but just to point out some similarities. Both groups, the Jews, let's stick to, of course, Jews who are God-fearing Jews, and the Native Americans have a extreme respect for nature and the world around them. And the Native Americans were famous for, when they did slaughter an animal, using every part of that animal. The skin, the meat. I mean, they would make sure that nothing went to waste. And what did go to waste, they would find a way to recycle in the ground, usually making the ground more fertile. They were very respectful of rotating soil and things like this. The Rambam writes as part of Jewish law that you're not even allowed to waste a mustard seed, acknowledging in acknowledgement of the fact that this comes from God, this is a blessing from God, and who are we to throw out God's blessing? They're also both very, obviously, spiritual people. It's spiritually oriented. The Native Americans had ritual that involved dance and song and prayer, and same too, especially by the advent of Hasidim, the Jewish way of life also began to incorporate dance and prayer, and of course and singing and the like. They had their sacraments. Jews nowadays, generally because of legal status, even though it used to be tobacco was used by both groups, Jews generally stick to wine as a sacrament, especially on Friday night and on the Sabbath day, where it's generally considered a commandment to partake of wine and make a blessing sanctify over the wine. What else? They're both very respectful of other people. You know, the Jews are charged to be a light unto nations, and Orthodox Jews take this very seriously, and we really try our best to respect all the nations of the world, sensing ultimately that it's, you know, we're one lamb, as we describe ourselves, among 70 wolves. And the Rambam says that when in regards to the Messianic redemption, when it speaks about in those days the lion shall dwell peacefully with the lamb, or the wolf shall dwell peacefully with the lamb, I think is the more proper translation. I think it's he's referring to the nations of the world will no longer attack the lamb, which is Israel, God's lamb, the people of Israel. And the Native Americans too, when the Puritans came, you know, the celebration of Thanksgiving, what is it in essence? This is before they started killing the Indians, the Native Americans, that is, that they thought were actually Indians from India. They're the ones who helped them survive that first harsh winter in Plymouth or wherever they had landed. And they're always the ones giving them secrets of how to cultivate the land and how to hunt and how to capture game and how to make fur and how to trade, and they're always very willing. They're a very willing partner with the new Puritans who began to slowly colonize these lands and would eventually expand all the way to the west coast, leaving nothing but a small remnants of that holy people, the Native American. And they're usually the same way. They're very trusting of the people. They always do their best to be a positive part of the economy wherever they are, to contribute to culture and society as much as they can, as much as they're allowed to, according to what the Torah lets. And they're very, very respectful of the laws in which they live. It says, Mishnah Pirkei Avos, you know, respect the government, the laws of the land, the government. If without that, man would swallow each other alive. And while both people seem to know that they had to be weary in doing so, like after a while, the Native Americans kind of caught on to the fact that, wait a minute, we're not dealing with the most straight people here. They say one thing to our face, and then behind our back, all of a sudden they bought another piece of land that really, you know, concept of land ownership to the Native Americans was a little foreign. They didn't really believe anyone could own land. They more thought that the land was given by God, and they were just here to cultivate and to live on it and to enjoy it while respecting it. if you could stop to historically imagine what life would be like, how much less pollution there would be like if the Native Americans would have wiped off the Puritans. I mean, this land would still be rich in terms of minerals and vitamins, and it still is, but it would be much more. It was such a the soil was so rich here, and there were so many nutrients and so many good things in the soil that now it's almost depleted of almost anything. We can still produce corn and wheat, but the example is the buffalo that used to be so much of. You know, the Native Americans were sensitive to the fact you can't kill off the species. I mean, it's just not good for the cycle of nature. Whereas once they developed gunpowder, it seems like the Puritans were happy to just kind of kill and eat, kill and eat, kill and eat, without thought of what's going to be for the next generation. And you know, the Mission Precovis showing that the Jews are very wary of dealing with the government or people of power. It says, you know, it's also in Precovis, you know, beware when dealing with the government. They only service a person in their time of need, when they need something. And they're both, I don't know, the Jews have been a nomadic people just because of their exile from their land. Native Americans, again, they at one point they did start getting pushed from place to place. They became a little bit nomadic, but they were both able to live off the land, reminiscent of the Jews in the desert who lived actually off miracles. But the Native Americans were able to do it in a way of dealing with nature and working with nature. This is a point that you don't hear too much from American Jewry, because there's a lot of embarrassment and shame and guilt on the side of American historians in terms of their treatment of the Native Americans. And Jews are very sensitive, and they don't really want to press on the feelings of American historians to point out that, hey, we're just like them, and we just hope that what happens to them won't happen to us. But there are a lot of similarities, and it's sad that I think this point would go over much better in Europe, or in places where people tend to be a little more spiritual oriented and a little less materialistic, a little less into capitalism, a little more into expression and individuality. Well, the beauty of these videos is that you can see it in Europe if you can speak English. And anyway, that's what it is, and I thought it'd be a nice comparative piece between these two groups of people, and I look forward to any comments or responses. And again, may God Almighty bless you in everything that you do. Thank you so much.